Hello, Matthias. We are back. It's a new service release. Woohoo!
Yay!
Time really flies, right?
Yeah,
For
I'm
sure. And this time it's the August release, 2308.
absolutely, and it's a good release actually because we have some features in there called the Nikolai feature.
The Nikolai feature. Yeah, I guess you could probably say so. I think there is more people involved as well who have asked for this change over the past couple of years, but let's dig into that once we get to it. So
Absolutely.
the first one here, it's kind of on the same subject. It's about applications, and that we can now uninstall Win32 applications, but also Microsoft Store applications from the company portal. So
In,
that's a good improvement, I think.
Indeed, we can, Nikolai. So I'll just try to reinstall this app. This is a Win32 app. And of course, if you need to uninstall applications, remember to, in the program when you create the app, to also have a string for uninstallation. That wasn't if you had an available app before, well, it wasn't required, but it is required now if you want to enable this uninstall, right?
Exactly.
So
So
as
we
you
should
said,
just point out, like you said there, this is for available apps. If you still have a required assignment for a given app, even though you have put in the allowed to uninstall, that's not going to work, right?
exactly. So I got my app installed, and I also have my yeah store app that I got from Intune as well, and I can as well uninstall this one. So let's see how that actually looks like in the portal. So if we go to apps and we create a new Microsoft Store app here, and we select, let's just do VLC player, and we create that. So in here, there's simply, you can't say that I want to allow install. So if you use a store app, that is by default a possibility that you have. Um, but that's different from a, for example, Win32 app, where you can actually switch this around. So that's one of the big differences here. You have the allow available uninstall right here. You can set that to yes.
Which is cool, right? Because I mean, it's been a lacking feature for, I'm gonna say, decades, right? But I mean,
Mm,
now we're finally getting somewhere we can actually allow the uninstallation like we could have in the old days in Software Center and stuff. So it's improving. That's really good. We like that. Um,
but
but
honestly,
CD burner, what is that?
yeah,
Did
that's a
you?
very old program. Um, we don't use that anymore, but
Yeah, okay.
this is
It's
only
just
for the
test that.
example's sake. Yeah. But
So you are
Nikolai,
the CD burner 7-zip kind of guy with that substitute for 7-zip, right? This is
yeah,
your go-to test application. I like that.
absolutely. It's a light version of an application. It's MSI, and I know that it works. So it's kind of easy to take down from my own little store here. One thing, Nikolai, this is actually a very basic thing, isn't it, to be able to uninstall the application? So it took a long time for Microsoft to actually implement this. But I want to highlight one thing. If we go to the source where the Intune management extension is is um, is caching the software, right? One thing that I've seen is that when I try to uninstall this app, what is actually happening behind, now you can see it's going to cache or download my cache of my file into this library, and you can see it did that 1050, which is now. So let's just pretend that I had a MSI package and I had a switch that could uninstall this package without me having to download the whole source from my blob storage from Intune to
Yep.
actually uninstall the package. If it's a very large package, now I had like 7.5 meg, it's okay. If I had 2 gigabytes, I was like,
Yeah.
that would be a bad idea, right? So
Oh yeah, sure.
this feature needs improvement in this area.
I mean, we could do that. We could specify different content locations for uninstall and install commands for Win32 applications in the application model in Config Manager. So maybe that's, I don't know, next iteration. We certainly feel that that's the sort of next step, at least that needs to be improved from this sense, because just like you were saying, if you need to uninstall an application and if that is AutoCAD or something similar, why should you have to download all of that content all over again if it's possible to just execute a command to locally reference the uninstallation files, right?
Exactly.
So, but we just need to say anyway, we can now uninstall. There's always room for improvement. This is the kind of improvement that we would like to see coming up.
Yeah. Oh, it failed.
It failed. Boo.
This was a store app, so that's okay.
Have you
I
not
can
seen
retry.
the new policy that just came out that we're going to talk about?
We'll go through that later.
Yeah, cool. So it's time for the Nikolai and other features, right?
It is.
I'm not sure how many actually know about this. I assume many of you may have experienced it in some time. I learned about it way back a few years at least when I developed a script that was supposed to simply just update all the drivers, making use of HP's excellent tools to make that. And on a fast internet connection, like 100 megabits or gigabit speeds and stuff, well, the script always ran, the provisioning with autopilot always completed, no problem, right? But when we started testing this out in the field, provisioning started to fail. And it was due to this application that attempted to update the drivers. And we noticed that there's or it was at the time, a hard-coded execution time that whenever that exceeded, that automatically rendered the application installation, even though if it was still running, the ESP or this application or the IME essentially would treat this as a failed application, sending out a failure message, causing the whole provisioning to fail. So that's not a good idea. But today, we can control this. And I think this is super optimal. It's perfect. We should be in control of these types of limits. There should not be someone sitting behind a desk giving us instructions to do it in a certain way and limiting our, let's say, imagination, right? So I'm super excited about this. And it has been a upward battle trying to gather evidence that this is needed. So you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. And did you see what I did just while you were talking?
Yep.
I tried the upper kind of boundary for the timer and also the lower boundary. So you can't go below 1 minute. You can't go over 1440 minutes. That's the maximum time. So if you go 41, yeah, you get this little warning. So I don't know which app is going to use actually that long time. Maybe you should reconsider not installing such a large app from the cloud.
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely applicable use cases to this, right? I mean, the one that we had a few years ago with dealing with drivers, that's not applicable today. Intune is starting to have better control over drivers, and hopefully very soon in the future we can also steer that control into the provisioning flow as well. But another one is wrapping applications, right? I mean, if you take the AutoCAD as an example again, well, if you're sitting on a 2 megabit connection and you still need to provision that device, well, you would want to allow it to take longer than 60 minutes because you're downloading the content somewhere else from, or you're doing something different. I mean, there's tons of different applications where this is applicable to be able to change it. I guess you
Amen.
can understand I'm excited about this. I mean, it's a really small change, but it's something that gives us more control. And I always say I would like to be in control when I speak with Microsoft. I don't
Mm.
want you to take decisions on my behalf.
Yeah.
Unless it's automating something that I don't want to do anyway. So. Then it's fine.
But talking about large packages, I recently were at a customer where they had, for example, AutoCAD, and it isn't one of the newer ones that is cloud only. So they kind of created a installer that would go to a network drive and actually get the binaries there and start installing. So this installation time required that we can extend that is also a use case for them. So this
Absolutely.
is really cool.
So I think, I mean, this is maybe one of those small potential blocking things for certain customers or companies out there actually taking the steps to flip the switch in terms of application management, right? And moving that over. So again, awesome, good
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
But there's more good stuff, right? There's a new profile for BitLocker, which I haven't looked at, so I'm really excited to see you show it off.
Yeah, so you always tell people that I am the responsible one for the endpoint security blade, right? Um, so
And you cannot spell BitLocker correctly.
no, I can't.
Just messy.
Yeah. So you go into the disk encryption and encrypt, and then this is no more messy. This is actually very, very good overview of how we can BitLock our device. In the old policy, there was all kind of settings that you needed to set in order to actually be able to configure the BitLocker for your OS drive. So when you require device encryption, that's enabled, easy, easy peasy, right? You want to rotate password on Azure AD joint devices, well, easy peasy to configure, and you don't even have to configure any more than that. But then you have a more advanced way to actually configure your BitLock drive encryptions. So, for example, if you want better encryption on your drive, you want encryption on your fixed data drives or removable drives, it's like it was a mess before. Now it's much more. Um, it's a nice overview actually. You
Oh yeah.
have exactly what you need and it's easy to configure. So I really like this new way of enabling disk
It
encryption.
feels like it's the setting catalog structure underneath, right?
Yeah.
That gives you the same interface just within the endpoint security node instead on the disk
Mm.
encryption.
Yeah.
And I recall that I read somewhere that more and more of these profiles are being moved into this new framework, right?
Yes, Microsoft is modernizing everything here in the endpoint security
Yeah.
blade. So this
Which is
is a welcomed change.
oh yeah, absolutely. And like we touched very briefly on right a couple of minutes ago,
Mm?
there is a new EDMX setting or configuration setting in relation to controlling um, the store experience for end users, right? So in the past, you could basically just enable the private store mode, and but by doing so, well, it would turn off the public portion of the store, but you would also have the capability of allowing the users to run winget manually and install anything from the public store using that. But with this new setting, and if I read it correctly, we have not tested it ourselves yet, but we will still disable the public store, and we would disable the capability of end users running winget manually, but we would allow the new Windows Store app type, which is essentially making use of the winget binaries and framework, coming from Intune. So we can still deploy Windows Store apps, right, through the new app type. So that's pretty cool, I think.
Correct. And while you were speaking, I was just showing the other some kind of setting that we used to set, where we allowed the private store, not the public store. That's not needed anymore. Now we can simply go into session settings picker here, and then we can search for the turn off the store. We get this new policy, turn off the store application. We put that to enable. And when we do that and click on the store, this is your result. And as you said, Nikolai, this won't prohibit Intune Store deployed applications from doing self-service updates from the store, etc. So you will keep the capability of everything updated, evergreen, and such. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So this puts you even more in control, right? There's no sort of workaround to circumvent the policy that you have applied to only allow anything to be installed through the company portal and such.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Hmm.
Cool. And there's also some updates for compliant policies and reports.
And this
It
was
feels
really
like there's
needed.
coming. It's a recurring theme, right? There's a lot of reporting updates coming out these days, which I
Yeah.
like, to be honest.
But Nikolai, you know that Microsoft were kind of creating these reports for you and updating them for you, right? Um, and nobody kind of wanted that. They want what is the here and now picture, not
Hmm.
what was my picture 4 hours ago or 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
I want to see this now. And one of these reportings were basically very poor on the compliance policy. So Microsoft changed this. If you recall, they had this cake or chart diagram showing
Hmm.
users and devices, pie sort of thing. Now they switched to the more modern reporting instead, and we can go and click, and per setting we can go into our compliant devices. We can even filter on it as we want. We can add more columns if we would like, for example, the Intune device ID, or even if we had a co-managed device environment where we kind of wanted to see if the management agent is config manager or it's MDM, and what the reasons for this compliance policy wouldn't apply to a device. So this change is a very welcome change, and we really needed that because we had so much issues with the pie diagram. It is basically it didn't make any sense.
The sort of experience with the pie diagram, it takes me back to when Intune just were migrated to be on the Azure platform back in, I don't know, 2017 or 18, whenever it was. I mean, it feels like that old experience, right? And you would never really trust that data because you were always unknowing. Is this 24 hours ago? Is it 12 hours ago? When is it, right? I don't know really.
Mm,
And I never bothered to understand because I just got the feeling this is giving me a view of some time ago, right? But I want to understand what is it right now? What is it the device that I'm looking at that I'm currently troubleshooting? What is that reported in right now? So that, I think, anything related to reporting, go ahead, update it, make it modern.
absolutely. Mm. And here you can actually see that we got this new settings compliance preview where we can report and we can generate the report. So when we need the data, it's actually gathered from the backend. So that makes a lot more sense than just create a random report at any given time and then present that to you. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, we like it
Yeah.
for sure. And Endpoint Analytics is also getting some love this month, right?
Yes, indeed. And if we go to a device, we would have this user experience here. I have installed this new cool tool, Power Toys. So
Ooh.
when I double click my control, my mouse was flicking when I
Oh
hit
yeah.
the zoom it, right? So I'm not using that anymore. But I go to the device timeline. Up here, we have this timeline of the device and crashed and information about user login times and all that. It's pretty nice. But now we have much more detail. We can actually search for certain things. I want to only see events that has with my boot to do to see if there is any pattern here. I could see maybe I have installed something on the entire state of my devices. I can see that device booted is way longer now than it was 30 days ago or something like that. I could investigate what's wrong on my environment. Or I could simply add some filters here. And say I want the anomaly detection and apply that. I don't have very much in my environment though at this stage, but so we get possibilities here to now search and do better stuff in the device timeline, and that's also good to be able to do such sorting, so to speak.
Yeah. We should just point out here, device timeline is not something that is new. It's a feature of the advanced endpoint analytics, right? So you would need either to purchase that specific add-on or go with the full Intune suite to see this. Otherwise, you would just see the tab. You cannot search. You cannot see any timeline. You get the banner saying you need to go purchase this add-on, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be clear.
Yeah.
But I like this. This is very useful, I think. This is something that we have not had in the past, and I'm really looking forward to what they will bring into this space and how much details it will going to contain. I mean, something I would like to see in here, for instance, that is, or at least kind of events from the device management event log, for instance, right? So it failed to renew the SCEP certificate or something. That would be super useful to have it here because that happens, right? Unfortunately. So,
Yeah, it does. So
but
kind of a
so
central repository for your events or the critical events, maybe.
maybe the critical events, right? I mean, it's maybe not related to the timeline, but it's somehow tied together, I think. Being able to see that, but because I feel that that's a critical event because the device may lose Wi-Fi connectivity or other sort of authentication mechanism where a certificate like that is being used. So
Mm,
um, that is cool.
absolutely.
And then we are coming to the item that we are not really sure about what it means. We have a
Yeah.
qualified guess, right?
Yes, a Cloud Desktop log file. What is that? And our qualified guess is that it is part of the Windows 365. But really, what this feature is about is that the collect diagnostic is now including this file. And that's basically the news around this. I tried to collect my collection of my virtual machine, which is running now. I did that at 10:10, so that meaning 1 hour ago. I still have not gotten my diagnostic file, so pretty frustrating. It should take around 20 minutes, but yeah, it's not here, so I wouldn't be able to actually see if I got anything good from this device, but nevertheless, I really believe it's for Windows 365.
I actually did it for a device just not that many days ago. Let me just open up that folder to see.
Yeah,
Uh, so it should be a log file, right?
it should. So it's simply a matter of the collector that actually takes up
Do we know
more.
the where it's actually located in this on the client? The path
Somewhere on the temp.
temp.
Yeah, try Windows temp.
No,
No.
not
We
see
could
it
just
in
look
there.
at the news though.
Let's look at the news and trust that it's there.
So yeah, okay, so it should be in temp, not Windows temp. So in the user
Ah,
library, yeah, we can have a look. No, it's not part of my device here. So I really think this is related to Windows 365.
I think our qualified guess there is pretty accurate, but
Yeah,
we can go and look it up afterwards.
yeah. So, but basically that's the news, and I really like the collector here. But that there are certain things that you need to have opened in your network to have the collector to get to a blob storage that is not accessible for you, but by the Intune service, that it needs to put this zip file to that blob storage, etc. So yeah, but cool. We get more and more logs into our zip file, and that helps us debug when we need to do such a thing.
It certainly does.
Mm-hmm.
And reporting again, right? So the EPM team, they are really working hard. They are crushing it, I think. They're
Yes.
pushing new stuff each month. It's really exciting. The past couple of releases has been report related, and I like that because obviously there's tons that I would like to improve here, but reports is also one of the things. So what's the new
Absolutely.
thing?
Yeah. So in a couple of videos ago, we looked at the elevation report. We looked at the managed elevation report. Now we have elevation report by applications. So all the applications that is somehow launched by the user, but is unmanaged. So this is both the managed launched and the unmanaged launched. So let's give it just a brief moment here to load. And what we can see here, that's I had one file internal name here called something. It's not true. It's not its name, but it's what it gathered. It is a user confirmed elevation type. So that means I had a elevation policy for this. All the other type of exe files, executors also that I ran have a unmanaged elevation type, meaning I have no EPM policy that says you can elevate this. Now we can see the elevation count. So this is giving us a pretty good idea if this is something that our users should be able to do or not to do. And if I want to do that, I could, for example, click on the CMD and it gives me the file hash. So I could actually create a policy on this file hash and maybe the version and maybe the internal name here, and actually give the user access to run CMD with EPM without even touching the user device. That's pretty cool.
Imagine if you were in that flyout blade there, right? And you had the possibility to just create rule
Over here,
straight from there.
create role
Exactly.
right
Yeah,
there. Click.
exactly.
That would be nice.
Done. Then we can go and have another cup of coffee again, right?
Boss, I'm ready. I have deployed it to everyone.
I blocked it. Oops. Sorry.
Whoops. Yeah. Yeah. I guess if you use a EPM rule for CMD, you should disable every child process. Otherwise, you could give them admin privileges instead. That would be easier.
Yeah, just give everybody local admin. No, don't take that as a recommendation.
No.
That was a Swedish joke with a
Yes.
Danish touch on it. Because I was born there. Anyways, we have some Defender updates as well that Matthias really loves.
Yeah, okay. So if you if you go into the antivirus, you could create a policy here, and we have Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server, and then down here we have the Defender update controls. So what we can do here is that I actually showed you this in an earlier video as well. now this is general available, isn't that? Yeah, that's what it state, right? So we have the engine update, we have the platform update, and we have the security intelligence update. And now you can now configure this in stages. And I just briefly want to show you a slide here, Nikolai. So the platform, this is from the Nordic Virtual Summit, where I had a session on exactly these components and how we can put it into a ring principle design stuff. So the engine updates, they are monthly. The platform updates, they are monthly as well. And this is updates to the core detection engine, and this is updates to the product, new features and fixes. And then there's the security intelligence updates, which is multiple times a day. So yeah, so these are monthly, this is monthly, and this is multiple a day. So how could you set that up into a ring structure is also something that I kind of showed. So let's see how that could be. We have all these update channels. You saw the drill down there, the current channel stage, the current channel broad, and then a critical delay for servers, for example. So for the monthly patch, you could have like 3 rings where you have pre-productive validation devices, and then in the stage you would have like 10% of your devices to represent and to do the proper testing before going to the global production. And that's how I would suggest that you kind of manage your Defender updates, because we all know that Friday where the Defender for Endpoint cleaned out shortcuts, right?
Yeah, attack
Wasn't
surface
wasn't fun.
reduction rules, right?
Wasn't fun.
I actually don't know because we were not affected. So, but I
Okay, I see.
imagine you had some restoring to do.
Yeah, I actually have
I
a
actually laugh about that because I know a lot of companies were affected and probably used a lot of man hours to restore the desktops and such. So, hat off for you. Good
what
work.
actually happened was that it was the security intelligence update on this particular build, together with the block
Right.
Windows 32
Yeah,
API
that's
calls
right.
for Office macros. If that was enabled, it wasn't a good combo.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no good combo.
I would say that there's never a good combo, anything with macros in Office, right? Should just block them altogether.
Yeah,
Way easier.
exactly. Yeah, so
Good.
build your
So that's the
Defender
first
updates.
announcement from a GA perspective. It's cool.
Yes.
It's there. There's another GA announcement as well, which is Group Policy Analytics. It's finally, I would say. I remember I tested this out in private preview back in 2019. I even presented about it a little bit. I was allowed to do that during the private preview at the Experts Live Europe conference. And I remember at the time I was super, super excited about this. And I'm still. It's just that it's a tool for me to help others get into the cloud, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Oh,
And
we
it's
agree on
actually,
something. That's good.
and the nice thing about this group policy analytics is that when you have built GPOs, you can actually reuse that. So
Oh
if
yeah.
you have a good design on your on-prem stuff, well, you want to go to dip your toes into Intune and these CSPs now. Well,
Hmm.
you can certainly do that. We can migrate our policies. Um, just a tip: don't do that on all your GPOs. But
I was just thinking about I should mention something about that. Just don't do a one-to-one complete migration. Look through your settings.
hmm,
I know from experience, we unfortunately did a one-to-one with our Internet Explorer settings, and there were more than 100 different settings, which we are now in the process of cleaning up. Ever since Internet Explorer is disabled, IE mode is there. There's many settings that we had in the past that was not needed to be moved over. So just
hmm,
a good tip.
yeah, exactly. So It's great. Now finally GA. And it definitely helps people to move away from hybrid for having GPOs on their devices now to a cloud-only device having the policies coming from Intune only.
Which is where we want to end up, right?
Everyone should be there.
Now you can.
That makes sense. It should make sense, right? But
where it makes sense, absolutely.
Yeah.
And last item on the list for today is about a update. So yeah, you can actually see it there straight away. Remember that a few months back, proactive remediation changed name into Remediations. And if you went from the far left side on the devices, then you would see the policy segment where you would have remediations. But what if you are like me when this changed, right? Because I never really scroll down there because there's too much stuff and it's not very convenient. So I go by platform, I go to Windows, and when they made this change a couple of months back, you could only see PowerShell scripts there or platform scripts these days. Now, if you click on scripts, what happens is that you have the tabbed experience. So you're directed directly to remediations or proactive remediations, if you want to call it that. And you have your platform scripts. Now all available under by platform. I think this is great. I use this every day. Yes. So I'm super glad. I had almost gotten used to just scrolling down looking for remediations in the devices node, but this is a huge improvement, I think. So more of these, please. Make it a good experience through the portal. And icons. I just need to mention icons. And if you watched the previous videos, you know why. Otherwise, I'll leave it hanging. And I think that's it for this month. We have been through the list, right?
Absolutely.
So that's great. Cool. Well, thank you, Matthias. It's Friday here when we're recording this, so I'll wish you all a good weekend. And if you're looking at this after the weekend, have a good afternoon or day or whatever you are right now. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.